This week's message from the angels is a continuation of their explanation of exactly what is happening in the shifting of our consciousness as we are going through our ascension. Last week, they talked about the end of aloneness, how it's about moving into the state of oneness. This week, they are describing that how that is going to be impacting us, that we are now moving into a brand new phase in which we will, when we go into our contemplative state to understand ourselves better, what we will find there is no longer just ourselves by ourselves, but what we will find is everyone else around us who is also in a state of readiness. So a huge shift that we are moving into, and they talk all about it in this week's message. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel, which means that I go into a deep meditative state or a trance, and then I raise my awareness up as high as I can go, a little higher. I connect in the angelic realm, and those messages and healing come down through me, and I share them here with you guys on YouTube. So yeah, so the angels have been talking to us for a long time about the ascension and the various stages of this and how it's been unfolding. And we are in it. It is happening to us now. And yes, there are more things coming down the road, but what's happening right now is a shift in human consciousness, the collective consciousness. And we, as those who are interested, who are learning, who are listening, who are working on our healing, are here to hold these energies and help to shift the consciousness. And so a lot of what we've been going through this process has been learning to let go, to be in a state of allowing, right? Trying to move from our karmic to our dharmic path. And as we've been doing that, we are now getting ready to be able to hold this higher vibration, which is very exciting. And the angels say that as we reach and stretch into this, they are there to help us, so they can help us to ease through this journey. So anyways, it's a fascinating message there. It's full of some incredibly beautiful and helpful pieces of information that they always blow my mind. The phrases that they use or the way they describe things is always so incredibly helpful. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the message and have a wonderful weekend. So here is the message. They say, we are sharing some revelations that you are seeking and understanding. We have harbored within ourselves the knowledge of what is coming. We have an understanding we are willing to share with yourselves, but in knowing such as this comes the effect of longing, of lack and suffering. For there is within this knowing the power of not altering what is coming, of languishing in the mire of what is today, of feeling the self stuck in the readiness for the ever-escaping tomorrow that never yields what you are expecting. Thus we say for yourselves to be in attention, to quell your wondering, but to hold this knowledge at a distance from the self, to let it be an apparition to contemplate, to become aware of, and to release it. To let the self imbue and harness the reality of this instant with that future cadence which you know is coming, but resist the temptation to be always in attendance of that next offering, to be waiting, wanting. For in that state of hearkening what is not here, you are resisting, relinquishing the gift that is ready. We speak to yourselves of these times in our awareness, potential outcomes, what is nearing. There is in offering for yourselves a time of tempest, which is nearing, coming on strong, sought out to harness the awareness of mankind, to let drift into the summer's eve of last year the tranquility and ire, both which constricted your awareness, to let loose upon this new formed field a sense of yourselves in contemplation. This next passing is about the selves contemplative, in understanding the self, in minding the self, to bear witness to one another's selves, to be in the element of trust, to be ready for the acceptance of what is, to be sharing yourselves. This is what is unfolding. The nearness of this creates pressure upon the egoist structure, the self of separateness, the desire for release from oneness. The contemplative self understands what is nearness, what is the self in contrast, and wishes to offer this, an understanding, a perspective. What is felt, what is offered is the self in truth, boundless, without separation. This sharingness, nearer than is felt, is available to you now in the offering. The sense of what you are, opened, penetrable, accessible to any. The contemplative self originates in self-understanding, in harnessing what is now pressing, what is passing, what is occurring as a reflection of that internal nowness of what I am. We are nearing a time in future states of awareness, as you elevate the selves, in which your access to the selves draws near to others' awareness. That when you harness your own nature, when you draw this into awareness, you are accessing the readiness of all who are near. You are drawing this up and into presence, so that as you breathe, you feel the presence and surrender of being surrounded by nature, oneness, union. A tenderness evolves within humanity for one another, for grace. The softening of resistance. Not all will feel this. Not all stand in readiness. Many will bear witness to it occurring. Many will feel the pressure of rising and resist. There is anxiety in these times, fitfulness, frightfulness. There is anguish in these times. Be not in judgment of those who are barbed and ready to deflect. Be not anxious for the surrender of those who feel nothing. Be not tender for the rejection that may form on their lips. Feel only the joyful exuberance of your own finding, and in this we anchor you to ourselves. We allow you access to our herald and coming, that you feel the resistance of your own time passing, existing no longer within the self. And rising above this, you enter into a new phase of your own becoming. We wish you to know that these times are rare in their formation. The accelerated energies which circulate among you to support you, to enliven you in this effort, take you anywhere. They may begin with downfall and struggle, or lift you into the slumber of denial. But we would herald your awareness to coast into the next epoch with ourselves, to feel the surrender of these times, to let them go, and to become what you are, to anchor with us now into the next beyond. We invite you. All right, so loads of beautiful passages in there, right? I mean, loads of things that I'm going to have to go back and think about and just let percolate in my awareness, because it can be hard to hold, you know what I mean? Because there's so much there. You're saying, oh, by the way, you're saying this week snow is expected in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, I'm in it. And where I am, I get snow for sure. You're saying love permission for feeling the feels around Mars. Good, because it's there for sure, Rebecca. All right, please, love and light from Denmark. Still snow here. Hello from Denmark. Great to have you here with us. And you're saying, beautiful. This is so beautiful. Yeah, you guys, I'm so glad you feel it too, because it is, I love this message and what they're saying. And let's go through and break it apart paragraph by paragraph and talk through it, because it would be so easy to miss some of the really, I feel like, really kind of like mind expanding things that they're saying in this message. Hey, Jay, great to see you. All right, they're saying, so first paragraph, they're saying, we are sharing some revelations that you are seeking and understanding. We have harbored within ourselves the knowledge of what is coming. We have an understanding we are willing to share with yourselves. They're saying, like, they do have a perspective of, like, time is not, angels don't see time. They are acknowledging that they see potential outcomes. They see the potential futures that we are moving into. And they see very clearly the next future that we are moving into. And in terms of the future, we know that there's always shifting timelines and things change. But they're saying they acknowledge, yes, they have access to a much longer view of where things are than we do. But then they say, but in knowing such as this comes the effect of longing, of lack, and suffering. So this is huge for us to know that I think a lot of us really wish to know what is happening. And I think I told you guys once before that the angels one time gave me just the feeling. They didn't give me the full knowledge of my life. They gave me the feeling of knowing what it would be. They gave me the sense of how I would feel if I knew everything. And I think I told you before that it was a terrible feeling, that it was terrible to know. It's like reading the end of a book and then you have no desire to read. It's like the spoiler, or watching a movie if you already know who done it, It took away, like, it was not a good feeling. And I think that's what they're addressing here. They're saying in the knowing, when we know stuff, that there comes the effect of longing, of lack and suffering, that we become aware that we're in lack of, we see this future thing we're heading into, and so we start suffering because we don't have it right now. So all of us are in this expectation of what's coming with our ascension and with this elevation in our consciousness, and that creates longing because we don't have it now. So they're saying, be aware, as they're telling us this stuff, be aware of what it does to our minds and to our energy. Right? So they're saying, for there is within this knowing the power of not altering what is coming. And I think that is an interesting turn of phrase. So there is within this knowing the power of not altering what is coming. And that you could look at so I feel like I have to turn that around in my mind, because the power of not doing something. And what does that mean? The power of not doing is a choice. Like the angels are all about the power of not interfering with our free will. That they have that ability, but they have self-restraint, right? They have they would love to come in and fix our lives and to make everything better for us, to pick us up when we scrape our knee and to dust us off and to make it all good again. But if they don't let us fall, we don't learn. So they have the power of choice, of choosing not to interfere. And so that in itself, it's talking about ourself, the power that we have internal, our internal strength. So the power to not do something is about how we are powerful within our own consciousness. It's about choice and about our willingness to exert control in terms of what we choose to do and what we choose not to do. So it's our internal will that they're talking about, which is the strength of our higher selves, right? It is the strength of our character. It's who we are on the inside. So the power of not altering what is coming. So that is speaking to our internal strength of will, right? And they say, so what it is that there is within this knowing the power of not altering what is coming, of languishing in the mire of what is today, of feeling the self stuck. I love this line, stuck in the readiness for the ever escaping tomorrow that never yields what you are expecting. Like right there in one line, they say what that experience is. And when we're waiting for the future, always waiting for the future, and no matter, even if bits of it are coming, it's like that future is always out there. It's always further away. We're never in the now. We're anticipating what's next, anticipating more. So like so much of these ascension events, so much as it occurred already, we're in that boiled frog state of mind right now where things are much crazier than they've ever been in our experience. And yet we're still waiting for the ascension. And the truth is we are in it. Like we are experiencing it right now. But because we have this thing in our head about what it will be, it is out there somewhere in the future and it never arrives, right? The ever escaping tomorrow that never yields what you are expecting. So this is again referring to our expectations and how that impacts our experience of the now and leads to this disappointment and longing. So yeah, one paragraph in and they're already laying it on. So you're saying, hi from Austria. Hi, thank you so much for joining us. So glad you can make it again tonight. We're so glad you're here. I still believe that there are different timelines for each one of us that is within a framework, and the possibilities manifest based on how we think and feel. And you're saying elusive. I think that there is within our own lives, yes, different timelines that we have. I think you're absolutely right that there are many different outcomes and that we make choices and that things unfold. I see it as like dominoes that lead out and that we make a choice and then it starts down this path or this path. That when we make decisions, then the angels are involved in helping to line up the opportunities that align with the choices that we make. So I think that supports what you are saying. Yeah. All right. So next paragraph, they say, thus we say for yourselves to be in attention, to quell your wondering, but to hold this knowledge at a distance from the self. So they're saying, they're going to tell us, they said that to pay attention, they want us to be alert and be listening and to take this in, and they want it to quell our wondering, which is like, okay, we're so curious, and they're going to give us something to satisfy that curiosity. But they're saying, take the knowledge, but don't hold it so tightly that it overtakes your present awareness, to keep it just out there. So in your awareness, but not at the forefront of your awareness. So at a distance from the self. Let it be an apparition to contemplate, to become aware of, and to release it, right? To let the self imbue and harness the reality of this instant with that future cadence which you know is coming. So that is big. That is saying, so the idea that why they want us to have this information is because they want us to be living in the now, taking that future that we know is coming in terms of what is humanity going to be in the future, and holding that idea of trying to move into that, but from the future state that we are in now. So the future cadence. It's almost like the future is at a different drumbeat, and they want us to start bringing that drumbeat into the now. So we're starting to think about, how do we live like that? How do we embrace that? How do we start welcoming that in? That's the idea, right? But resist the temptation to always be in attendance of that next offering. So we're not always waiting for it. We're living in the now. How do we start living the now, living like that now? Right? To be wanting, to be waiting. They don't want us to be in that state of waiting. So they say, for in that state of hearkening what is not here, you are resisting, relinquishing the gift that is ready. I love that. So that, right, again, another one of those mind-altering sentences, that when we are thinking about the future, we are relinquishing the gift that is here. And that implies that there are things available to us now that we are not seeing, because we're focused on our expectations of what's coming. And I think that is huge in terms of, just think about if you hold that thought throughout your day-to-day. Think about what gifts are here for me right now that I'm not seeing because I have expectations about what is supposed to be coming. Right? That's big. All right. And you're saying, I can so relate to this. I'm feeling like I am not doing. It feels sort of like a limbo. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the Mars retrograde energy, and that is also the waiting for what's coming, being in that state of like, oh, it's going to be here someday, and it's this ever elusive someday, and not being aware of the gift that is here right now, which is we are in the ascension. Our consciousness is shifting dramatically right now, and it's gonna, like, there will be periods of where it's unavoidably visible. But right now, there are important things happening for us internally and in terms of the collective consciousness that we need to be present to, because we have to be holding that energy, right? Like last week's message, to be that light, right? This is super important for us. All right, next paragraph. We speak to yourselves of these times in our awareness, potential outcomes, what is nearing. There is an offering for yourselves. There is in offering for yourselves a time of tempest, which is nearing, coming on strong. So this is a period of, but it's tempestuous, but I think that this is in terms of our experience, that it will feel tempestuous between people and among people. That tempest can be a really positive thing or a really negative thing. So we can experience elevated emotion is coming, is what they're saying. Coming on strong. Sought, and could be unfolding over the next year. This is elevated emotion. Sought out to harness the awareness of mankind. So the purpose of this is part of this, trying to bring our awareness up. To let drift into the summer's eve of last year, the tranquility and ire, which both constricted your awareness. They're saying what was I feel like in the last couple of years, what we've been going through, and they say tempest or tranquility and ire. So I think we have been in the state of either sort of closing our eyes and going within and being in a state of tranquility and not seeing what's out there, or being engaged in this polarity and the fight and all this kind of stuff. The ire, this is like angry at each other, right? Like we've been in that state. Over the past, so it's kind of one or the other, these two poles, these two different ways of being, either in the state of tranquility of like, I don't see it, I don't hear it, I don't feel it, like leave it outside, or really engaged in the political fighting and the whatever it has that's been torquing people. And so they're saying leaving that behind, like they say, let drift into the summer's eve of last year. So like a gentle letting go, easy letting go of what was. They're saying that both of those were constrictions to our awareness. Now we're ready to move into this next stage, which is to let loose upon this new formed field, which is this now opening that we're heading into, a sense of yourselves in contemplation. So this contemplation is really different from tranquility, which is what we've been in. in terms of trying to stay in a spiritual high vibe, like tranquility was where it was at. Now we're moving into a different state, which is a state of contemplation, which is a more active state, a more engaged state. Contemplation means we have to get out, like they were saying last week, we have to get out and engage with everybody else. So this is a different state of mind, a different state of being that we're trying to embody as we're heading into this next field, as they're describing it. Who knows how long this will be, but this is the next stage of our awakening. They're saying, okay, and here it is. They're saying this next passing is about the selves contemplative. So this is what it's all about, being in a state of being contemplative, being contemplating. In understanding the self, in minding the self. So it's about really getting into like who we are, being aware of ourselves, they say, and also to bear witness to one another's selves. So this takes being out and among people. To be in the element of trust. So they keep talking about that in the last few messages. Trust has been like over and over and over again. And same thing in some of the circles, the sessions that we did, both at the recent Golden Circle retreat, which I held, as well as in peace bathing. Trust has been over and over and over again. They're talking about this, that we have to be trusting so that we can reveal ourselves fully. So they said to contemplate ourselves, to bear witness to one another, to be in the element of trust, to be ready for the acceptance of what is. So that's another thing about not looking at others saying, how do I change you? It's about how do I accept you and see what is amazing about you and hold space for you to blossom into the fullness of what you are without judgment, right? To be sharing yourselves. This is what is unfolding. And that absence of judgment is essential because it is a component of the trust. Like other people have to trust us that we won't be in judgment or we won't be trying to change them, that we accept them as they are. And through that acceptance, we create space for them to contemplate themselves, right? They feel safe to contemplate themselves. So, all right, next paragraph. And here you are saying, that's why I think Bible can be very limiting when the reason people think that the new earth is not here is because it's not looking at exactly what is described in the Revelations, which again, another possibility, not absolute. But we are living in the new earth as our consciousness is there already. You know what? I think you're right, that there's a lot of guidance out there that is telling us how things are going to be. And I think that things are going to be unfolded. There's a lot more on the horizon. But there's really important, and you're right that people say we're not in it, but I don't think anywhere in the Bible doesn't necessarily, and you guys know that part of my journey has been to not be super schooled in all the various religions that are out there. And so, but I don't believe that there's a lot of discussion about this shift in the collective, about this super important, it's like we're doing the legwork, and some of this is the really heavy lifting of trying to heal and elevate the collective consciousness. And I feel like this is part of bringing us, this is part of our purpose, bringing us to a state where as this other stuff, world changes, earth changes unfold, we can be in a state of readiness for that, where our conscious will elevate to the point where we can glide through that, right? So, okay. This next paragraph, they say, and this next paragraph is about how this leading into this new contemplative state or contemplative state, how that creates pressure against the ego. So they say, the nearness of this creates pressure upon the egoic structure, the self of separateness, the desire for release from oneness. The contemplative self understands what is nearness, what is the self in contrast, and wishes to offer this, an understanding, a perspective. What is felt, what is offered is the self in truth, boundless, without separation. So this is a big paragraph right here. So let's just talk about it a little bit. So it is, the nearness of this creates pressure on the egoic structure. So the egoic structure, they're saying, is the self of separateness. The ego is all about what am I? And to understand what am I have to separate myself from everybody else. I have to see myself in contrast myself from other people. So that's why it's sort of like what comparison is all about, the ego understanding, how am I different? What defines me, right? So that is the desire for the release from oneness, that's the egoic structure. And it's been super helpful. The ego is not all bad. The ego has helped us to understand more about the divine spark that we hold. So that is part of the journey. That is a very necessary piece of this experience of being human. But they're saying that this experience, this contemplative nature that we're heading into, is going to create pressure against the egoic structure. So that's going to create a lot of it's going to be very jarring for a lot of people, really uncomfortable for a lot of people. So we have to be aware of that. So you might be seeing this. If you are a healer, if you're a channel, if you're working with clients, you can expect this to be coming up, right? The contemplative self understands what is nearness. They're saying that when we really get down into looking at ourselves, we understand what it is to be close, to be open, to be whole, and to be present with other people, right? They say we understand what is nearness, what is the self in contrast, right? And wishes to offer this and understanding a perspective. What is felt, what is offered is the self in truth. So it is like looking at the self, really understanding who we are, and we got there through the egoic structure, but now it is about releasing that. It is about opening up and trusting so that we can truly share who we are. And they say boundless without separation. So this is where it's a delicate dance. We use the ego to understand ourselves, and then we release the ego so that we can then come together and trust and not worry about being judged and not worry about how they're going to feel about you or me or anyone, right? And just be ourselves and letting ourselves show up and be felt. And right, boundless without separation. Yeah, you're saying ego is like an overprotective parent. You're right, actually. Yeah, that's true. That is true. You're saying back to oneness. Yes, and that's the journey. We're trying to get back to oneness. So this sharingness, nearer than is felt. So they're saying this is closer than we assume. They're saying is available to you now in the offering. So this is around us right now. This is this new field we're heading into. It is now available to us. So we can move into this. We can start feeling into this. And the pathway, they've been talking about this for the last couple weeks, is trust, right? That's what we're trying to build, is trust, this sharingness, right? So the sense of what you are, opened, penetrable, accessible to any. And I know that just sends shivers up the spine of many of you. And I can relate to that. That sense of being out there, of being viewed, of being seen. Like that is such a common fear among light workers. And I use that term to encompass all of us who are here and who choose to be here to be of service. And because I know that term has a lot of different meanings, but I mean it that way. And I know that there's a lot of baggage around, boy, when I am seen, bad things have happened, right? In the past, lots of you have past lives where you showed up as you are and bad things happened. And so it's about letting go of that pain, moving into a state of trust, and the energy supports you now. The energies are supporting this rising. So they're saying now it is offering the sense of what you are, opened, penetrable, accessible to any. Letting go of that fear of being seen, which, like I said, I know, and that was one of my biggies, you guys. The fear of being seen was a big one that I had to overcome. And I did. So it happens. Like you can let go of that. Like I know when that fear is there, it feels like it's just like in your skeleton, like in your marrow. Like it feels like it's so hard to let go of. But you can do it. You can do it. It's just a feeling, and feelings can be released. Yeah. All right, next paragraph. The contemplative self originates in self-understanding, in harnessing what is now pressing, what is passing, what is occurring as a reflection of that internal nowness of what I am. So they're really saying this, the idea of this being contemplative is about trying to understand ourselves so that we can share the truth of who we are. So it's using the learning that we've gained along the way and using what we're confronting in our reality to really see ourselves and to be honest about what we see, right? And to understand that with all our flaws, that we are beautiful exactly as we are, and to let that be seen. And to be genuine, to be authentic in that experience of ourselves, to not worry that our flaws make us less, because they don't. They just make us original, right? They're beautiful in their own way. All right. The next paragraph is about, this next paragraph, I really see this is addressing the many of you who have very sensitive energy, the empaths among us, the people who are accustomed to feeling like, boy, when I put my energy out into the world is a bad experience, right? That you feel like you're affected by other people's energies in a really negative way. This paragraph is to address that very common experience among people with very sensitive perceptions. And they say, we are nearing a time in future states of awareness as you elevate the selves in which your access to the self draws near to others' awareness. This is so interesting that when you access or harness your own nature, When you draw this into awareness, you are accessing the readiness of all who are near. So this is the moment where we start mind exploding, because this is what we're moving into. This is the idea that right now, when we go internal, like think about this, when you go into your thinking state, when you get contemplative, when you start thinking about things, at navel gazing, you start thinking about yourself and who you are and what you feel and all that kind of stuff, which is a common place we all go to. And that's a place you go to in your head, right? If you think of that as a destination that you go to when you get contemplative, you start thinking through things. When you go there, in these times that are coming, you are not only going to find yourself there. It's like a destination, and up until now, it's been your own private little room that you've had to yourself. In the future, when you go there, there's going to be other people there. So think about that. This is a weird thought, that when you go to that space, you're not only going to be tapping into your own self, but you're going to be tapping into all the people that are around you who are ready for this. So that's a mind blower. And it just really changes, like, what is it to be contemplative, to think about yourself, to understand yourself? So they're saying when you draw this, so when you are accessing your own nature, so you're going to that space, when you draw this into your awareness, so you pull this, it's like you go to that little private secret room where you think about yourself. They say you are accessing the readiness of all who are near, right? You are drawing this up and into presence so that as you breathe, you feel the peace and surrender of being surrounded by nature, oneness, union. So this is so different. This is so different. I feel like we just have to spend a lot of time on this, because this is a huge shift in what it's going to be human. And the reason I mentioned the part about being an empath is because in the past, being sensitive has meant going into the mall and feeling bombarded by energy and having your own system overwhelmed. And this is not that. And I think that's so important to know, because I think it's so common to be like, oh, I don't want to be around other people's energies because it's not a good experience. What they're talking about is a very positive experience. And think of it as like your contemplative space, your secret room that you go to think about yourself, and think about the only other people who are going to have access to that room are people who are in readiness for it, who are coming in this space of trust, who are willing to let themselves be seen, who are open, right? Who are showing, it's like they said, that who are open, penetrable, accessible to any, right? That's the whole thing they're talking about, accessible to any. So if you go to that contemplative space where you're thinking about yourself, and we're used to that being a very solitary experience, and think about last week's message was the end of aloneness, right? That's what that whole message was about not being alone anymore. Now in the future, the next plane, the next field that we're moving into is that when we go to that space of contemplation, what we will find is the peace and surrender of being surrounded by nature, oneness, and union. Totally different. Because our experience up until now of contemplation has been an experience of isolation. It's been the experience of feeling not understood by other people. It's been the sense of your own voice like in an echo chamber, right? And feeling like nobody else can see you that way. So it's been contemplation has been a lonely experience up until now. And they're saying this is changing with our trust, with our willingness to be open. And all we have to do is go to that place, that contemplative place, which we all know, right? You go there, and then when you are around people who are also willing to be in that space, who are in readiness, what you will find is other people. What you will find is them, and the feeling you will have when you're there is surrender. It's peace and surrender, being surrounded by nature, oneness, and union. So it is a totally different vibe. Doesn't that blow your mind? It's blowing my mind, you guys. Yeah, you're saying that is so great to hear about positively experiencing everyone else's energy. Yes, and I think the key there is that it's not everyone else's energy. It is those who are in readiness, who are readiness for this shared experience. And I think that's the difference, right? And that's where we walk into this in this trust. And so I think that is, mind blower. Woohoo, it is about time, you're saying. Not being seen, heard, or believed until very recently. I love that you are now feeling the difference of that, Rebecca. That is super cool. It sounds so like self-affirming. Yeah, it is, I think. I think it is self-affirming because you are in that willingness to be seen and putting yourself in that space, that trust. I think you are opening up and being seen, which is such a huge part of our healing to be acknowledged. I think there is that's, I think, what every human really wants, right? We just want to be seen. Like, we've been on this journey to understand ourselves. We just want that understanding to be shared and for people to see us as we really are. Yeah, you're saying, I'm in that contemplating place all the time when I'm not talking to others. This is rewarding. I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad. So yeah, so this is a really big difference. And is this a thing where everybody, like I said, the sensitive experience of being around and being exposed to everyone's nature, I think that this is really a spot where we're talking about, and they're very clear, they're saying people who are in readiness, people who want to do this. It's a choice of our lifting into this experience. Yeah. All right, next paragraph. They're saying a tenderness evolves within humanity for one another for grace, the softening of resistance. Not all will feel this. Not all stand in readiness. So there we go. That answers what we were just talking about. So not all stand in readiness. And they're saying that those who are in readiness, as they're experiencing this, a tenderness evolves within humanity for one another and for grace, the softening of resistance. So I think it could be a thing that as people move into this, that the experience of it helps to guide them. So they may dip into this experience. I think it's one of those things where you get this once, and it's going to be pretty encouraging to come back again, right? I think that this is going to soften resistance, the availability of these energies, the availability of this opportunity, especially as if you guys are leading the charge, if you are holding this space, if you are entering, and you have to be the ones that start the trust and let this be there, right? Then people will soften and move into it and maybe respond to it, right? They say, not all will feel this, not all stand in readiness. Many will bear witness to it occurring. Many will feel the pressure of rising and resist. So we know that there's going to be some people who are going to feel a lot of fear about this. It's going to make them uncomfortable. They say many will bear. There is anxiety in these times, fitfulness, frightfulness. There is anguish in these times. So I think it's important that we are compassionate to others, especially during this experience, because it is not easy if they're not ready for this. It is not an easy experience to be exposed. I think it would feel a lot like being, shoved over a cliff. And that's not a good feeling. So to be, as much as we can, to be compassionate for what that experience might be. They say, be not in judgment of those who are barbed and ready to deflect. Yes. So the ones who are like really in resistance, who are finding a lot of fear in this, who are barbed and ready. I love that. Their defenses are up and they're ready to deflect. Be not anxious for the surrender of those who feel nothing. So not to worry. If there's people that you love who are not on the path, they say, don't worry. They say, they say, be not tender for the rejection that may form on their lips. So don't let it hurt you. If you are open and if you are being your truth, if you are out there being like, hey, I am a, healer. I see, angels or whatever you do. And people are not kind about that. They say, don't let it hurt you. Feel only the joyful exuberance of your own finding. And in this, we anchor you to ourselves. So here's the support. The more that we reach into that frequency, the more that we are in alignment with the angels, the more support we receive, right? We allow you to access our herald incoming, that you feel the resistance of your own time passing, existing no longer within the self. And so we're no longer, shut inside here. And they say, and rising above this, you enter into a new phase of your own becoming. So this is the new reality we're moving into, is a much more connected way of being. They say, we wish you to know that these times are rare in their formation. The accelerated energies which circulate among you to support you, to enliven you in this effort, take you anywhere. So this is really important to understand in terms of what it's going to be like to be in the world right now. They're saying that this is a rare energy, the kind of energies that we are in, very rare. And they're saying that they're accelerated energies and they are non-directional. So it's almost like we're all getting supercharged. And what we do with that supercharge is up to us. So that is really important to know as we are living in the world, and why they describe this in the very beginning. They say we're entering a time period of tempest, that this is going to be chaotic because the energies that we need are affecting everyone, whether they're ready or not. And people are going to do different things with these energies. So that's why it's so important that we're conscious of them, of the energy, and we're conscious of what we can be doing right now to work with these energies. They say the energies can take you anywhere. They say they may begin with downfall and struggle or lift you into the slumber of denial. So I love that think about that, when to lift us into the slumber of denial is like when we kind of get into that out of body state where we're no longer present, we're no longer feeling, we're just moving through the actions. Like that's that slumber of denial. So we're not present, that's that. So it could take us there. So it's it's a supercharge of energy, and it could go any which way we want. But they say, but we would herald your awareness to coast into the next epoch with ourselves. They're saying this does not have to be hard. That if we are willing to step into this, if we are conscious of it, if we are present with what's happening with ourselves and with our own energy, we can coast into the next epoch with them. That we move up into that higher state of awareness where we get the angelic support, and it is not difficult, right? To feel the surrender of these times, to let them go and become what you are. So, and that was a message of like 2 months ago, like every other word they said was surrender and allow. Like that was like, remember that? Like it was like, 2 or 3 months ago that was everything they said, surrender, allow, surrender, allow. Now it's like trust, 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 trust. So we are really in a new phase. Yeah. To feel the surrender of these times, to let them go and to become what you are, to anchor with us now into the next beyond. We invite you. Right? Okay, you're saying, where is it? Teresa's saying, I had a dream, 2 trains meeting, all from one train moved to the other, and it takes off. Oh my gosh, you have everything you need to move into that new phase. I love that because trains often represent the journey of life. So I love, this shows definitely like a massive shift in your life and that fits beautifully with what we're saying. Wow, Teresa, super cool. Thanks for sharing that. And you're saying this is how polarized will happen. It will attract people who truly vibe and repel those who don't, which is how it should be. And I think that like you're right that we bring into our energy those people who align with us. And I think it's as that's happening, I think it's so important. Like we do want to try to bring as many people with us as are willing. And I think that's why we have to radiate that trust for everyone, right? Not just for the people who are ready, but to try as much as possible to hold space for those people who might get a glimmer of this and then be inspired. Like everybody has the capacity. Every human has the ability to feel these fabulous energies. And so let's do what we can to share them, right? To try to not in a way that is trying to change them, because they said like we're not supposed to come into it with the idea, how did they say that? Right, they say, be not in judgment of those who are barbed and ready, be not anxious for the surrender of those who feel nothing. So not to worry or think about it, just to shine our light. Like that was another message, like let your light shine, just be yourselves, and to trust that by being yourself, that will have a positive impact, and people will either accept that or they won't, and to let that be, right? And I think that is the space to be in, and that's the guidance we've been given. Yeah. You're saying this is how, this is how polarized will happen. We will attract, hold on. I think that was a repeat of what you said before. So everyone is surrounded and loved by the right people, and take care of the circle and ripple the love outwards. Oh, I love that. There's a lot of depth to what you're saying there, that I do think that there is, that like is attracted to like, which allows us space to growth in the comfort of feeling seen and understood by someone who is like ourselves. So I do think it's a profound statement that you're making. And I think that is a good thing, right? That we're attracted to people who are like ourselves, and hopefully attracted people who are like ourselves, but maybe just slightly ahead, so that they can hold space for us to grow into that next best self that we hold. Yeah. You're saying that is why grounding and becoming present to the body and my feelings, emotions trigger was so important and still is. 100%. Yes. Agreed. You're saying, what an awesome invitation. I think so too. Say that is why grounding. Oh, sorry. We're getting repeat. Sorry, some of the comments are coming in more than once. Sorry about that. So anyways, you guys, beautiful message. Definitely, like I am more and more understanding as their messages are unfolding, more and more understanding the pathway that we're on, and how they have been over these past months been trying to help us to understand what the ascension is, how it's affecting our own individual consciousness and the collective consciousness, and the steps that we can be taking to help move that process along. And the messages are just beautiful. So I hope you guys loved it too. All right, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I am looking forward to seeing you again next Friday for our Friday message from the angels. Love you guys. Bye-bye.